Let's get started. So, yesterday we discussed some of the fundamentals that are needed before you dive into any actual coding. So, which is how the internet works: HTTP, domain name, hosting, DNS, and browsers. So, before and I gave an assignment that we should make sure that we read through each of these module. So before I proceed, I want to ask if anyone has any question based on what we've read or what we've researched based on the previous class. So if you have any question, please let me know before I move further. So in today's class, basically what we want to do essentially is an introduction into HTML, CSS, and yeah. So just to let you know that before, so now remember I mentioned yesterday that we are going to touch on front-end development and back-end development. So as far as front-end is concerned, we need HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But before we dive into the front end itself, what is front end, right? What essentially is front end development? So whenever you visit any websites, so name it, let's say TechSavia.org or roadmap.sh. So whenever you visit any website, what is displayed to you or what is returned to you are what we call the front end. For instance, now front end simply means what the user sees when they visit a website. Sometimes some people call it user interface, UI, user interface, which means what the user sees whenever they visit a website. So as you can see now, I'm going to be using TechSavia as an example. If you visit TechSavia.org, so everything you are seeing on this screen is powered by the front end. So as you can see now, I'm able to scroll down. You can read more about the organization. You can also submit a button. You can submit your question or your message. Now, this front end you are looking at is powered basically by 3 tools, and those 3 tools are what is called HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Again, everything you see when you visit a website is powered by 3 main tools, and those 3 main tools are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So regardless of the website you visit, whether it is facebook.com, everything you are seeing on the home page or the about page or the chat page is what is powered. It is powered by the front end. So that's why I said some people call it user interface. That is what the user sees when they visit a website. Now that we understand that what you see on a website is powered by HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the question is, what does HTML do? What does CSS do? And what does JavaScript do? Right? So HTML essentially, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So, every text you are seeing on this screen, let's say TechSavia, home, about, services, contact, start learning. Every text you are seeing on this screen is powered by what we call HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. That is everything you see on a website or a web applications. I think I should clarify what a web page means. What is the difference between a website? There is a difference between a website, that is web page, and web applications. So essentially, website is just like website is just, say what you see is just like a website without kind of like backend. Let's put it that way. Website is a website. I don't know. A website is like a site that is not kind of like, that is not linked to a backend. For instance, now majority of what you see on this website is powered by front end alone. That is, there is no backend connected. Backend simply means where the data are coming from. Let's take, for instance, you have your mobile app, you have your bank application. If you go to any bank application, the first thing you will do is to log in. Or if you don't log in, you may want to create an account. You see, that kind of application, that kind of website is not just a website. It is an application because it has somewhere behind the scene. It has somewhere behind the scene where those data are coming from. Please, do you understand what I just explained? That is the difference between a website and a web application. Do you know? Can you signify if you understand that?
Can you please come again, please?
Okay, so I mentioned that HTML stands for hypertext markup language. So everything I mentioned, that whenever you visit a website, everything you are seeing on this screen, right? Everything you are seeing on this screen is powered by three main tools. So, and those tools are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? I'm not saying that the first one we want to discuss is HTML. HTML means hypertext markup language. So I mentioned that HTML is every text you see on this website, whether it is text, whether it is button, everything that has to do with the UI, what the user sees on the website, is powered by the HTML. You understand? I'm not saying that HTML is what you use to kind of like create a website and web applications. I'm now trying to differentiate between a website. A website is also known as a web page and a web application. I mentioned that a website is just it's just a site that has no backend in the sense that where the data are coming from, it has no backend, it has no source of data from it. For instance, that's why I said that, let's say for instance you go to a bank, let's say Access Bank. If you go to Access Bank website, let's say Access Bank login. So now if you try to access if you go to Access Bank now and you want to log into the application, I'm just using this as an example. If you try to log into Access Bank, they would need you to provide your let's say your username and your accept all. They will need you to provide your, I'm looking for where I can, let's say individual now. So continue to log in. So now if you visit, as you can see now, this is a website. Do you agree? This is a website, but this kind of website it has a kind of like a data source attached to it. For instance, now before you can log in into this application, you must have created an account. So that's why I said an application is different from a website, right? An application is a website, but it has some backend. Backend simply means where the data are coming from. It has some backend attached to it. Do you understand? Does anyone else understand what I mentioned? Alright, so now let's get started. Let's move on. So I mentioned that everything you see on this website is powered by HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But now, what is HTML? right? So HTML is just like the full meaning of HTML is hypertext markup language. So it's a standard markup language used to create web pages and web applications, right? So that is the work of HTML. So now that we understand the function of HTML, it means everything you are seeing on this screen, every text, every button, it is powered by HTML. So that is the first function of HTML. Now the second part is CSS. CSS stands for cascading style sheets. So now if you come to this website now, you can see that this color is blue color. This color, the color of this button is blue. While we have different colors on the website. Let's say this is Access Bank, for instance. You can see that some text have let's say this is this, I'm not sure of this color, is like orange. So let's say this one, you can see different colors. So the function of CSS is a way of styling, is a way of giving design to your text. Not only text. Remember, we have buttons, we have for instance, now this is a card. So everything you see, every design you see on this site or any other site is powered by what we call CSS. So it's a styling language. It's a styling language used to describe, I'm going to zoom this better. Is a styling language used to describe the presentation of documents written in HTML. It means that every text you've written on this website, you can give it a color, or you can give it a design by using what is called CSS, right? So that is essentially what CSS is. That is essentially what CSS is. But before I move on to JavaScript, I believe the best thing is to show you examples of HTML and CSS. But before we start writing any code, the first thing we need to do is a code editor. So I'm going to type that in my chat box. So code editor. For instance, now, if you want to write a letter to someone, you know that you can use a notepad or you can use Microsoft Word to write such a document. For instance, let's say you want to write an application. When I say application, I mean a job application. You want to write a letter to someone, or you want to keep some record, right? You know that a software you can use to do that is Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word, for instance. The same applies to coding. When you want to write code for your applications, there is something we call code editor. So we call them code editors. Code editors. So code editors are like a software. A code editor is a software you can use to write your code. For instance, now my operating system is not Windows. If I'm using Windows, then I would have opened Microsoft Word for you. But in my case, I'm using a different OS. So let's say I want to write a document. So now, if I want to write a letter, for instance, I will need to open this document. This software, yes. So now this software, you can see now, it's similar to, this software is called LibreOffice Writer. So it is similar to Microsoft Word. So if you want to write a letter, or you want to write a document, you can just write anything here. But in our case, if we want to write code, we need what is called a code editor. And there are many code editors we can use. So some of them is we have so many code editor. An example is what is called VS Code. I know some of you are probably familiar with VS Code, we have Sublime. There are hundreds of code editor online. You can, for instance, now let's say code editors. So as you can see on my screen, examples of code editor is VS Code, Sublime, Notepad++, Atom, and so on. So essentially, you make use of this code editor to write your code. So now, in this course, we intend to use VS Code, right? Visual Studio Code. So I'm also going to drop the link. If you don't have that VS Code, I'm going to drop the link in the chat box. So you can click on this, on the link. And once you click on the link, it takes you to this page. So on this page, depending on your OS, that is your operating system. So if you are using Windows, you would need to click on this Windows 10 or Windows 11. In my case, I'm using Ubuntu. My OS is Ubuntu and I have VS Code already installed. As you can see, this is VS Code icon. So if you are also using Mac OS, you can download it. So now, since I have it installed already on my OS, so now let's get started. Let's get started with HTML, right? So I'm going to create a new document. Let's say I'm going to call it ex, let's say example.html. Now, if you notice, whenever I want to create a new file, the extension of the file is HTML. That is very important. That is whenever you are creating HTML document, the extension must be HTML, right? So the same way applies when you are creating a document that you want to write CSS in it. The extension, when I say the extension, I mean HTML. For instance, now, if I want to create a new document, let's say I want to create a new document, I can say the name of the document is, say, style.css. The extension of this file is CSS, because what we intend to write into this file is CSS. The same applies to HTML. The extension of the file, that is anything starting from dot, must be HTML, right? So now HTML, so I mentioned to you that everything you see on the screen it is powered by HTML, the text. So, and as a result of that, HTML, we are going to be using this website, which is W3 Schools. So I'm also going to share that in the chat box. So please, you can be noting down some of these websites if you don't know them, so that you can, after the class, you can visit them. So now let's start with HTML. Like I mentioned to you, HTML, every text you see on a website is powered by HTML. Now, how does an HTML file looks? How does it look like? Well, there's something we call tag, HTML tag. So now, for instance, I'm going to copy this content. I'm going to copy this content now. Let's copy it into example.html, right? I believe you can see my screen. So now, if you notice, this type is the first line, which is line 1, is just telling you that it is just a way of saying what I intend to write into this file is HTML doc type, right? So now you can even remove this part. Let's say we remove this part. The most important thing about HTML is what we call tag. So if you notice what I've written here, I've written HTML and I also write HTML again. What you have here is a tag. And is HTML tag. In HTML, we have the open tag and the close tag. I hope you can see the difference between these two tags. So the first one is just HTML alone. The first one is HTML, but notice the second one. I put a, is this a backslash? Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a backslash or a forward slash. So in short, you can see that the second tag has the second tag has a closing. This first tag is what they call the open tag. The second one is what is called the close tag. So every HTML file, it needs to start with the open tag and the close tag. So now that you understand this, let's write, say, this is my first website. Now remember, you have to save this document. You have to press Ctrl S. You have to press Ctrl S to save this document. Now you can see that we've written our first HTML file, but how do we view our website? Like, how do we view our website? How do we view the content of our website? That's why I mentioned that we need a browser. We need a browser. Remember, example of browsers include Firefox, Chrome. So you need to use a browser to view the content of your website. Right now, what I want to do now is to locate where this document is. As you can see, this document is HTML, example.html. What you want to do now is to open this document. So as you can see, it is already suggesting that open this with Firefox. So let's say open with other application. As you can see, because the computer know that HTML is HTML is a web page, it is already suggesting the only relevant applications. As you can see now, I can open this document with Firefox, Chrome, or any other document or any other browser. So I'm going to, let's say for instance, I want to open it with Firefox. Select it. So this document is opened with Firefox. As you can see, what we've written in this HTML file, is what we can see on this web page. So before I move further, please signify if you understand what I've explained so far.
Yes.
All right, thanks for that. So now, for now, you understand that you understand the meaning of HTML, which is what is used to write all the texts you can see on a website. This is an example. This is a website, for instance, but the content does not really looks good. So now, remember I told you that what you've written here is known as tags. What you've written here is known as HTML tags. HTML. The first one is open tag, while the second one is close tag. Close tag simply means that you have to use a backslash. That is, this is open tag, this is close tag, and anything you want to write, you can now write it in between the tag. But HTML is not the only tag we have. We have several tags. We have so many tags. So now I'm going to show you example now. If you come here on this website, now let's copy this content. I'm going to copy this content again. Now let's replace this document. So if you notice, I want to do something. I want to format this document. Format document. So now I want you, if you notice, the start of this document is HTML. It's a tag. This is also a tag. You see, this tag, they have special meaning. As you can see, another tag is head. Remember, this is open. This is the open tag, and this is the close tag. So anything you want to write in between the head can now come in. This is also, now let's say for instance, this is a website. This is a sample layout of a website, the head and the body. Remember, the initial tag is HTML, this is the first tag, and this is the closing tag, which means everything you want to write in this document, in this HTML file, must come in between the two tags. So now we want to create another tag. Another tag is head, the head tag, and this is the closing tag, correct? So this is the open tag and this is the closing tag. So whatsoever you want to write in this tag, you cannot put it in between the two head, but you need to know that the first one is open tag, the second one is close tag. The same applies to the body. This is the body of our HTML file. The body, this is the open tag, and this is the close tag, right? So this is an HTML tag, this is HTML tag, body, the head, it has a special meaning. You see, each of these tags, they have special meaning in HTML. So now let's go. So if you open any website, for instance, now this is a website. If you notice, I don't know if you can see my screen, you can see that, if you can see my screen, you can see that this, on this tab, there is something called TechSavia. If you go to Access Bank, for instance, you can see that you can see home access. You can see access, I don't know, I can't see the rest, Access Bank something, but you can also see code editors. See, whatsoever you see on this tab, that is on this tab, is what is called the head. Everything you have to, that has to do with the head, is put inside the head. So what you are seeing here is called the title of the website. So for instance, now in our case, let's say the title is let's say it's TechSavia. Now I'm going to save this file. So after I save this file, let's reload this page. Can you see now that the title now of this website is now TechSavia? That is to tell you that each of these tags, they have special meaning. So HTML already understand that whenever you use the title tag, it is meant to display it on the title bar. So the same applies to like I mentioned, we have several tags. We have the body, which means the body tag is just everything else you see on the site, on the web, on the page. So now if you notice, this is the body tag, this is the open tag, and this is the close tag. In the body itself, we have another tags. This is H1, this is H1, this is H1, the open tag, and this is H1, the close tag. Remember, when I say tag, I mean this, open and close. Open and close. When I say tag, what I mean is open and close. Open and close. So this one is open tag, while this one is close tag. But remember, you need to mention something, the name of the tag. In this case, the name of the tag can be head. The name of the tag can be head. The name of the tag can be P, and the name of the tag can be P. So each of these tags, like I said, they have special meaning. When you say P, it means a paragraph, right? When you say head, H1, now I'm going to write another tag, which is, let's say this is H1, and let's say H6. It has special meaning, H6. Let's save this document. Let's reload this page. As you can see now, when we write something with H1, you can see that the content is big. When we write something for H1 tag, the content is big, but for H6 tag, H6, the content is small. So that's why I say again that each of these tags, they have special meaning. When you write P, is a paragraph. So that's why so if you take a look again, I believe by now you understand the basic of HTML. That is, HTML is all about tags. For instance, now if we go into the introductions, right? So you can see that we have the H1, P1. You can, so I mean, there are a lot of HTML basics. So so one of the assignments again I would want you to do is to go through this website. Then if you are not familiar with any of these tags or any of these, in essence, I will want you to read through this document, which means HTML tutorial. You have to read everything from here, not just reading. You have to practicalize. So now you have to read everything from HTML tutorial. You have to read everything up to HTML forms. So you have to read everything from HTML tutorial to HTML forms. You have to stop at HTML forms. So just to give more example, let's say we go to HTML documents, HTML elements rather. So as you can see, this is a paragraph. So let's say, for instance, now we want to add an image to a website. So I'm going to there is a special tag we can also use for an image. So that's why, let's say that tag is known as the image tag. So you can say image. So now when you mention the image, you need to say the source of the image. So the source of an image is just where the image is located. So let me look for an image I can use. So let me go to my desktop. So I want to see if I can pick an image. So I'm going to download it, image. Let's say image. Let's download an image. So I'm going to download this image. Save image as. So I'm going to download it as, say, the name of the image is going to be, let's say, SSS. Let's say SS. So I'm going to save it in desktop. So this image now is in my desktop. As you can see, this is the image I downloaded from the internet. So now I'm going to move this image into my work directory, which is TechSavia, TechSavia front-end intro. Then I'm going to put this image here, ss.jpg. So now like I mentioned, if you want to display an image, you have to mention the location source, src. It means the source of an image. So ss.jpg. Now let's save this document. Now see what happens. See Ctrl S. As you can see now, that the image has been displayed on the website. So this is to tell you that each of these tags, they have special meaning. So again, I would want you, as an assignment, I would want you to read through these documents. Not just reading, you have to practicalize. For instance, now let's go to HTML image. See, if you want to display an image, it shows you how you can use the image tag img. So it shows you the source. The source means where the image is located. We also have alt. This alt means alternative. Alternative means that if this image cannot be downloaded, or if this image cannot be found, what should the user see? Now let's take, for instance, let's use source. Let's use alt. Alt means that if this image cannot be found, what should be displayed? Let's save this document. Let's reload the website. If you notice, because the image can be found, this alt is not displayed. Now let's use an image which cannot be found. Let's say 111. Let's save the document again. Remember, whenever you make changes to your document or to your code, you need to save it. Ctrl S. So I have saved it now. I'm going to go to the web page, web page, reload the page. What do you see? The image cannot be found. Because the image cannot be found, that is why it is displaying this this text. So in short, each of the HTML tag, so that is just a tip of the iceberg. So now this is just, let's say for instance, now I want a button. For instance, let's say, like I mentioned to you, we have so many HTML tag. This is a button. If you visit a website, for instance, let's say Access Bank, and you want the user to submit something, the user must click on a button. So now let's say click on me. Let's click on me. Let's save the document. Let's reload the page. Do you see what happens? Click on me. This is clickable. This is a button. This is clickable because we are using the HTML tag, which it has to do with. So HTML knows that whenever you use this tag, this button tag, it is meant to be a button. So again, remember, you would need to read through these documents. You will need to read through everything here, not just reading. You would need to particularize. So you may want to copy it, just if something is not clear, you can Google search or drop your message in the WhatsApp group. So now before we go, this is an example. So now we are going to wrap up with this HTML document. Let's go back into our directory, into our folder. So now right click and open with your desired browser. In my case, you can decide to use Firefox or Chrome. Let's use Chrome in this case. Let's use Chrome. See, as you can see now, the content of the HTML is this. So you can enter your name, enter your email, enter your message, then you have to click on it. So you should know that before I even go there, I want to let you know that there's another tag known as input. So this input is where you can, an input tag is where you can let user submit or write message on your website. So now let's save this document again. Now we are going to go to TechSavia. Did you notice that you can now write into this? You can now write. This is because you are using an input tag. An input tag is what you use to collect information from a user. For instance, if you go to this bank app or bank website, what they are using, we have a few minutes left. So let's see. So now, what we want to do now is this. Let's take a look at this example I mentioned. Remember, so we are going to use. Let's open the document. Open with Firefox. Now. So you can see my screen right now. So we are going to go through the HTML document. So now let's go through the HTML document. First of all is the HTML tag. As you can see, this is the start, this is the closing, this is the opening tag, and this is the closing tag. Remember, I mentioned to you that there are some stuff you would need to put in the head. This is the head tag. Some of the things you can put in the head tag is the title. The title is simply what you see, the text you see, TechSavia. In our case, the title is basic HTML. This title is coming from here, from this title. So another tag you can put in the head tag is what we call style. But remember, we haven't gotten to CSS. Style, CSS is what you use to give HTML styling. Right? So now let's leave style for now because it has to do with CSS. Cascading style sheet. So now let's go back. Let's go to the body of the document. If you notice, H2 contact, this contact, if you notice, you can see this contact on the web page. We are using H2. Let's say we write H6, which is of the lowest size, H6. Reload the page. What do you see? The content is now smaller. So that's about the HTML. So now, remember, I told you that one of the tags you can use to collect information from a user is the input tag. If you notice, this input, we are using an input tag here. Input. So this is the input tag. So when you use an input tag, you can specify the type. The type means that what do you want to use this input tag to collect? Is it text? Is it email? Is it email? So you can also whenever you use a tag, what you put inside this tag, they are called attributes. Attributes. Now let's go back to W3 schools. So HTML attributes. HTML attributes, you need to read about attributes. So remember I told you that you can have a tag. You can have an opening tag and a closing tag. But in between the opening tag, you can write attributes. Attribute is just a way of providing additional information about the HTML elements. So for instance, now you are saying that you want to provide more information about the input box. The type is email, and the placeholder. The placeholder is what the user should see. Enter your email. So let's go back to the HTML. You can see now the placeholder is enter your email. Let's say I change it to just enter. Let's save it. Let's reload the page. As you can see, it is just enter. I want to see how many minutes we are having. So we have 12 minutes left. So this is for email. This input tag, we are using it for email. If you notice, we also have another tag called label. Label is just like from the word label. What is this input tag being used for? We are going to say this input tag is being used for email. That's why we say for email, and the content is email. So if you notice, where is it? If you notice, this is the email, this is the input tag, and the label is email. The same way for name. This is the email. This is the label. So now, if you notice now, so that's it. I think for now you can see that we also have another tag called button. This button, you're saying the type is submit because you want to use it to submit an information. So that's it. Let's say we enter some basic information. Let's say Ray, the email is, let's say, at email.com. The message is this message. So now let's do something here. If you notice, let's do something. So did you notice something here? When I type an information, it's telling me that please enter an email address. When I type an invalid email, it is telling me to enter an email address because this validation is coming from this input, because you've mentioned that the type is email. Remember, if it is just input, the type is going to be text. So we need to enter a valid email address. So yeah, I think I have some sample email here. So let's say this email. You can enter. So now when you submit, let's say you submit, you can submit this guy. So when you submit, it is gone. So that's all about HTML for now. And before I wrap up, I would like to accommodate some questions. But before we go, if you remember, when we type something, when we click on submit, it goes somewhere. So it doesn't go anywhere, because essentially, if we have a backend, remember when I was telling you about backend, I said backend is where the data is saved. Backend is where the data is saved. Because we don't have a backend, this data we are submitting is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. So that's all about front. That's all about front end and HTML. So if you have any question, I would like to accommodate any question you might have before the class ended. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. You can signify, raise your hand up if you have any question so far. Okay. So now let's take the first
hello.
question from Elias. Please move on.
Okay, so I know we have an assignment to do in the W3 school. I'll just ask this question as a preempting question of a later class. I've seen that that form for filling the user information, that is email and username, it's inside a container, correct?
Exactly.
Now, yeah, because I was looking at the code, this is a bit preempted, but how do you position like information in the HTML? Because when I look at this container, it looks well organized, and from my example, everything was vertical. I don't know if you get me.
Yeah,
Like
I got you.
what code is used, or what action is used to position the information? That's my question.
Yeah, thanks for that question. So now to answer Ilya's question, so remember I mentioned that HTML. So now we are going to do something interesting right now. So another thing you need to know about HTML is what we call comment. So comment simply means comment is a part of your code that you don't want it to be displayed. So now let's do something. Remember if we visit this website, we see contact us. Now let's comment out contact us. Contact us. Contact us. I'm going to comment out contact us. If you notice, I don't want to do that yet. So now, a comment is a part of your code. You don't want it to be displayed. Now, let's comment out contact us. Let's reload contact us. Let's reload the page. As you can see, we can no longer see contact us because there is something called comments. That's why I said again, when you go through this example, you will see something like comments there. As you can see, this is comments. You would understand better what comments are. So now, to answer Ilya's question, this form is well positioned, is looking nice because we have CSS. So now let's do something interesting. I'm going to comment out the style I used. So let's comment out the style. Now see what happens when I reload the page. Can you see that this website is not looking good at all? So that's why I told you earlier that HTML is concerned about the layout. Is concerned about the content, the text. See, it's not looking good. That's why I said HTML is just the text, the box, the button you see on the website. So what you use to style your website to make it look good, to give it color, is style. So now I'm going to uncomment this guy now. See, what I've written in between this style tag is what we call CSS, but we haven't gotten to CSS yet. So now let's save the document with CSS enabled. Let's reload the document. What do you see? It's looking good. That is because we have CSS in there. We have CSS. So now I believe, did I answer your question, Elias?
Yes, you have answered my question fully, and now I see the importance of CSS in web development.
Great. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this guy with you. What's the name? These documents with you. I'm going to share the documents in the group chat. So before we move on, please, do we still have any questions? Let's signify. I think we have a few. We have 4 minutes to go. So, okay. So now, and as an assignment, what you are going to do now, as an assignment, is that first of all, you are going to go through these documents. You're going to go through this document. Please, you can exclude CSS. Right? Please exclude CSS, because for now, I just want you to know the importance of HTML. Later on, in the next class, we are going to discuss CSS. So after we discuss CSS, then we are going to have a practical assignment whereby you are going to go and design a web page looking good. So, in the absence of no question, okay, so someone else raised the hand. Please, please ask your question, Ima.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Um, so my question, we all these things I did now, we cannot practicalize it on our phones, right?
Well,
Or it's possible to on the phone.
to be honest,
Or if we can't practicalize it on the phone, how then do we get it to our system? Like, how do we do it on our system?
okay, so to be honest, it is best. I would really recommend that you use a PC, a computer, whether it's a laptop or it is best. That's my please. If you have a computer or a laptop, I highly recommend you use a laptop or a computer.